Hi, thank you so much for joining me
Great.
today, Adam. My first question to you is, you know, Go Dog Go is based off of PD Eastman's book, and because of that, it's a unique show, like you mentioned, because there wasn't much of an actual story per se to the book. So, what I was interested to know was how did you take the content of the book and then come up with the content of the show? And then what from the book did you
Yeah,
absolutely have to have for the show?
yeah, that's a great question. So, it first of all, it had a specific tone, and it has this sense of incongruity to it. You have dogs in cars, and also parties in trees, and hedge mazes, and blimps. And so, like, I wanted the world of the show to incorporate those things, and have it feel like a world where all those things can coexist, even though if it doesn't necessarily make intuitive sense.
Mhm.
But so then it got me thinking, like, what kind of world would that be? And I started to think of, it's a world created by dogs, right? So dogs are playful, dogs are fun loving. They would make a world like this. So I started to develop it into the world of Boston, which is like the main town. In terms of a character, I took inspiration. There's the scene where all the dogs are asleep in bed. So
Mhm.
I thought, okay, that could be a family of dogs that that the show is centered on. But there was one dog that's wide awake, and so I assumed, well, maybe that dog is the dog that has the most go, and you can't contain her. So that became kind of the starting point for Tag as the main character. And then, given the centrality of vehicles and things that go in the book, I wanted her to embody that and be really interested in cars and race cars and fixing things. So it was pulling things and then kind of extrapolating and building out from them in the book, and then it sort of became its own thing when it started to become a show.
Awesome. And it comes across as that. I think it's a very unique show, and I think you did a great job.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. So, having watched the first season with my daughters, right off the bat, they formed a connection with these characters. So, Scooch is new to the neighborhood. Tag welcomes her with open arms. And we recently moved, which was really huge for our daughters because they were new to a neighborhood and they didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So, my daughter really connects with Scooch and Tag. What character do you connect with most?
Wow, which character do I connect with? I would say I am more Scooch than Tag, for instance. I think that, and I did, now that you mention it, I did move a few times as a kid, and I did find it hard to show up in a place where you don't know anybody. I don't think I had that friend like Tag that swept me up, but I think I could relate to wanting that, to having somebody that's just like, hey, you're here, you're great, you're gonna love this place. I think is a nice thing. I think Scooch has this kind of like easygoing way about him, and he likes to crack jokes and has a sort of a sunny disposition. So I'm not saying I'm always that, but I'm more that than I certainly can't fix anything, and I'm not that energetic. Like I can't, you know what I mean? I'm not the first one up, so I would say Scooch is a good starting point for me.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. So another aspect of the show that my 5-year-old picked up on, and she absolutely loved, is something that you mentioned before, was how you created you took all the dogs that were in the bed, but you created a family out of it. So you have a multi-generational family living under one roof, which is so fantastic because I know my daughter wishes that her grandparents could live with us, and because she hasn't been able to see them very much recently. Was that intentional though, to have that multi-generational idea in the show, because a lot of families live like that now?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it wasn't necessarily intentional as like a mission of the show, but I think in extrapolating from the idea that there's this big family living in a bed, I
Mhm.
just needed to populate the bed. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, who's in this family? Clear, and then from there, pretty quickly, the idea of having grandparents there, it just inspired ideas for stories. And one thing over the course of the show that we try to do is we have these Tag and Scooch episodes, but we also have these family driven episodes. And hopefully over the course of the series, we'll have chances for Tag to have an episode with each and every one of that member of the family to kind of explore that relationship. You know, one of the very early episodes is kind of about Tag and her grandfather competing together in a family talent show and trying to find that talent. And it's nice, you know, I have my daughter has a really, really nice relationship with grandparents. And so in creating that episode, I definitely thought about this sort of sweetness of, you know, a kid and a grandparent in that relationship. So it sort of inadvertently became a big part of the show without being part of the initial plan.
Well, it was one of the big things that stood out for my daughter, and I thank you very much for that because she
Oh, that's great.
absolutely loved
That's
it.
really nice to hear.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.